Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach. Today we have back with us Leo Climaco, who's the Business Acceleration Specialist, and we're talking about his new book, Align and Unleash, The Way to Your Truth. Leo, welcome back to the program.
Mike, thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to be here.
You know, I enjoyed the last section. We talked about your book and just talking about your pillars and how you are bringing these to reality for people to realize that your body and your being and your balance and your business all tie together. And also, you know, how the pit of poverty and prosperity and power and production. I love how your framework is just building out here. Today, we want to talk about the code. And I really just love how you're laying this out here. This is chapter 5, the code. And we're talking about real, keeping it real, facing the facts. What is your thought process behind the code of real, facing the facts?
I think that everyone must live by a code. I believe that in order for you to be someone who is successful, who is powerful, who is influential, you must have a certain set of standards and morals that you live by, and that you do not go under these values, this code, these morals. You live by them, you honor them. And I think every man must live by a code. My code is real, raw, relevant results. I live in the now. I live in the real world. I live within my reality. I understand my truth. I accept it. I feel it. I allow myself to create results based on my reality. And I'm able to harvest the fruits from my hard work based on my truth, based on my reality. That is my code. And when I came across this, I was someone who lived by no code. I was doing drugs, hanging out with the wrong people, being out all night partying, being someone who I know today I was not aligned with, doing things that I was not supposed to be doing, creating problems and situations because I was just wanting to feel pleasure or have joy or to be drunk or to sedate myself or to disconnect. Today, I live by a code. I live by a set of rules and disciplines that I don't allow myself to fall under. These are my non-negotiables. Real, raw, relevant results.
You know, real reminds me of the saying I've heard many times, real is rare. Because people these days, you look on social media and you see really the fake people, you know, their vacations that are perfect and it's really not the real them. What do you do to make sure that you are facing the facts from a correct and real perspective?
You got to show the good and you got to show the bad. That's being real. Because I completely agree with you. We live in a world where everything is fake, everything is staged. You have influencers who are renting mansions by the hour, renting exotic cars by the hour to go take pictures to portray a life that they don't really have. That's not being real. That's not living in your truth. So what you must do is, if you're going to expose your life, if you're going to put yourself out there, you got to show the good and the bad and the in-between. You have to...
When you say show that and show the good and the bad, What does that look like in real life? Like, for instance, is that just some document you put on your computer, or is that something that you literally are going to post out on your social media to say, "Hey guys, not to mince words, but I had a bad day yesterday, and here's why."
The latter. You
Yeah.
are going to get on your phone, you're going to turn on Instagram Live, and you are going to go on it and say, hey, today I had a really shitty day. X, Y, and Z happened, threw me off my track. I was really anxious. I was scared of this outcome. But you know what? I was able to calm myself down. I took a few deep breaths. I zoomed out. I saw the bigger picture. I was able to realize that it wasn't that bad. And I was able to continue moving on. You show both sides. You show the good and the bad, and you show exactly how you deal with it and how you would turn it around. That's how you position yourself in a position of authority as a leader. Because everyone has problems. No one is perfect. Everyone has anxiety. Everyone has worries. Everyone has fears. Now, are you going to allow that to stop you? Are you going to allow that to prevent you from accomplishing what you have to? Or are you going to push through? Are you going to be the leader that others need you to be? Or are you going to cave in and say, nah, I don't want that?
Yep. Huge. That's exactly right. And I think that you engender deep trust and credibility with people when you do that.
Exactly. Because people see your authentic self. People see who you really are, and they connect with it. The more authentic you are, the more they're going to connect with you.
And that authenticity leads to your chapter 6, the next R, which is raw. Talk a little bit about how raw you need to be, and then how raw you need to be with yourself to embrace that feeling.
You need to be extremely, extremely raw. Raw to the point where you are not scared of your dirty laundry. Raw where you can reveal your dirty laundry and be okay with it. That raw. That far deep into your truth. That's how far you got to go. What is your dirtiest laundry? Expose it. Expose yourself. There's no need to no longer live in a lie. There's no need for you to hide and bury things deep in. It's only giving you cancer. Stop burying these deep emotions down. Let it out. Reveal your truth. What is your rawness? How do you feel about that rawness? Let it marinate. Let that rawness fuel you. Take that truth and transform it into whatever you want your life to be.
100%. And sometimes it takes that rawness to capture our own attention, in the sense that if we don't notice something because it's too customary, it might need to be raw to smack us in the face and capture our attention so that we actually take action.
Exactly. Which is why most people can't really learn until something drastic happens, until it smacks them right in the face, right? And you can really avoid that by coming into your truth. You don't have to have a tragedy happen to you for you to learn a lesson. You can learn the lesson by simply coming into your truth, realizing where you are now, and making the required changes to shift that path.
Can you think of an example of a time that you or a client you've worked with have, implemented and noticed that rawness and then use that in their life? Maybe in one of the pillars?
Of course. I had a client who his mother had just passed away, and his brother had passed away not too long before that, maybe a year or two before that. So it was still kind of fresh. And he internally wasn't dealing with that emotion. He kept burying it down. He kept burying himself into work. And that was just creating friction between him and his wife. It was creating emotional friction for him. He was drinking more. He was doing heavier drugs. He was basically spiraling down because he wasn't able to deal with that raw emotion. And through several conversations of me and him talking, we were able to get together, and we were able to have a deep connection, a deep level of conversation where he was able to open up and cry and really let that emotion out and really come into his truth and really get raw about his feelings and why he's so sad and what his mom meant to him and what that death meant to him and what his brother meant to him, and how he felt like his brother was his role model, and all these little things that he was bottling down that he wasn't able to get raw. And when he got raw, the man completely changed. He was like a new person. It was like he shed a layer of skin and his true self came out. And he completely did a 180. And today he is ripped. He is buffed. He's ripped. He's making really good money. His business is flowing. And he is just so much better because he was able to get real and raw with himself. And he was able to work out the kinks required to allow him to unleash.
I think that probably a part of the reason why people spiral is that they are all over the place in 1,000 different directions. And once they become raw and embrace that feeling, it brings us then to your next section, which is chapter 7, being relevant. It helps you have the magic of focus. That's where the magic happens. So talk a little bit about that.
Once you wake up, once you go through the emotional roller coaster that it is to get raw, and you shed all those feelings and you cry and all those emotions come out, you have just cleared. It's almost like there was an accident on the highway and you were backed up. And now, once you've dealt with this, the highway cleared up and you have now open lane, nobody in front of you, and you can just go. And that's what happens, because once that highway opens up, once all those emotions are cleared, you start to realize, you start to become thankful for life. You start to thank your blessings. You start to slowly realign, and you seek more of the truth, and you seek more of your truth, which means you want to go deeper into yourself, which means you got to go do more work. So that brings in that drive within you. It's almost like you waking up. It's almost like you being reborn. It's almost like a new version of you arose. And now it's time to get to work.
100%. And it really then it's like the analogy of the magnifying glass. The sun shining down on a sidewalk doesn't burn up the leaf or anything there, but when you take that magnifying glass and shine that beam of sun onto a leaf, that's when the focus really burns it. So, boy, taking that focus and making it relevant to your situation and applying that to each of those pillars in your life, and not at the same time, I would venture to say. So you're going to maybe take a period of time and focus it on, pillar number 1, maybe your body. And then, like you said, your client became more ripped, and then his spiritual, his being, and then all of these things start taking shape because of that momentum. So being relevant, having that magic of focus, doesn't that really amplify that momentum really well?
Right. And to your point, in the next couple of chapters, we're going to be doing just that. We're going to go through the framework of each of the pillars, body, being, balance, and business, to really show you how to go even further.
100%. So let's now move on to chapter 8, where you are talking about results. the ultimate measure of mastery. Because in reality, if you are applying yourself and not getting results, you might not be applying yourself in the right direction.
100%. Just because you're putting in effort does not mean that you're getting somewhere, right? I mean, there's a lot of people who work really hard, 3 jobs, 10 to 12 to 15 hours a day, and they're not really getting any richer by working so hard, right? So in the end, it's about the result. It's about the end goal. But it's not only about the result. It's about the journey. The result is the motivator to allow you to go through the journey. But you must enjoy the journey, not only the result. But the result is the culmination of your hard work. The result is really when you get to the peak. That's really your result. Once you harvest the fruit, once you have come into your truth, once you have come raw, felt the rawness of that truth, once you've learned to take that raw energy and use it to create and use it to build and use it to evolve, you can then go enjoy the fruits of your labor. But you have to understand that you must do the work. You cannot take shortcuts. You cannot skip the part of doing the work and just go to the results. If you don't do all the right steps to plant the tree properly, your fruit will not taste good.
Wow. Leo, you were saying when we discussed the pit of poverty and the peak of prosperity, that a misconception is poverty is always money, and that's not the case. And prosperity is always money, and that's not the case. So I want to dive a little bit deeper here into results. How do you make sure that you have the proper definition of results? Because I would venture to say that there's some misconceptions on, good results are. But in reality, sometimes results are not what sometimes people would articulate them to be.
And I agree. And I think it's relative, right?
Yeah.
For example, if you are a 38-year-old man, you're married, you have kids, and you're pre-diabetic, right? A good result for you under the pillar of body will be to get as far away from being pre-diabetic as possible, right?
Yeah.
That can be your 3-month, 6-month term peak, right? Your goal for that time span. So I think it's very relative, which is why it's so important for you to come into your truth. Coming into your truth means that you understand exactly where you are within the 4 pillars. Right? Everyone's going to be at a different place. No one's going to be in the same place. So if you are someone that you're pre-diabetic, your goal for body, your first goal for body should be to get as far away from that as possible. And that can be your measurement of result. So which is why we set yearly, monthly, weekly, and daily goals. Because everyone is going to be different. Everyone's going to be at a different place and moving at a different pace. So therefore, we find out exactly where you are to be able to tailor the results specifically for you. But I think a good measurement, an average good measurement for everybody is going to be, are you in balance within the 4 pillars? So within body, are you eating healthy and do you work out? Yes, great. You may be in balance within body. Within being, how is your communication with God? Are you praying daily? Are you meditating? Do you have faith? Or do you allow constantly anxiety to take you over? So if you do all these things, then yes, You may be within an average balanced alignment, and so on for the other two. But I don't think that there is a exact result measurement for each person. It's based on where you are, what your truth is, and what you're trying to accomplish.
Leo, I agree with you. And it makes me think of another question. I think that a lot of times people want results and they look at the end result. I want to get whatever. And you mentioned the pre-diabetic person that maybe they even have 50 pounds to lose. Maybe they should not focus on losing 50 pounds. Maybe they should focus on that very first metric of whatever that might be. Speak to not setting your expectations with too big of a jump initially, or else if you don't accomplish it, you lose your momentum and motivation.
I think what you're talking about exactly is called delayed gratification. And I think it's something that we really struggle with. And I have actually a great story about this. When I was 19, I was working, and that morning I had put my car in the auto body shop because I needed 4 new tires. So I was getting 4 new tires in my car. I dropped it in the morning. It was near my job. I walked over to work, and I was a audio and visual technician. So I would go out to different places to install speakers and run wires and whatnot. So I'm at a job site, and I was going to be there past the time where I would be able to go pick up my car that same day. I think they closed at 5:30. I was going to be working till 7. So I called a buddy of mine to go pick up the car for me. It was already paid for. He goes, picks up the car, runs a stop sign, gets into a car accident, gets the car T-bowed, crashes the car into a tree, and he basically leaves the crime scene, runs, and I never see him or my car ever again.
Oh.
Yeah. So that was an extremely valuable lesson that I learned about delayed gratification. Now, the reason why I was so impatient was because the owner of the body shop, wanted to charge me, I think, $100 to keep my car there over the weekend. I dropped it off on a Friday morning. So I didn't want to pay the $100. I didn't want to be patient and wait 2 days to get my car on Monday. And I tried to do everything possible to get it that same day. And I lost my car and never saw it again. So I think people aren't able to enjoy the journey because they're so concerned with the end result. The journey
measured process to get that result.
Correct. Making those measured progresses, allowing yourself to evolve and to grow little by little, to me, is what life's about. Life is about these growth increments that you can do. And where you end up, but you only end up where you end up because of the work that you did inch by inch getting to that result. You don't get to that end result miraculously without doing the work. You must do the work. You must appreciate and value every single step that you take to get you to your end result. The end result is great. It really is, but it's not the be-all, end-all. It's about the journey that gets you there. And the person that you become during the journey, during the process, during the evolution of you being real and raw, the person that you become at the end is really what it's about.
Well, Leo, the code that we've been talking about, real, raw, relevant, and results, that's a code to live by. That leads us to your chapter 9, which is embracing the code to live an authentic life. How can someone hearing these steps for the code understand how to embrace that, because it cannot be flipping the switch to not embracing the code one day and now you're all in. It has to be a progression. But what are some of the first things that people need to keep in mind in embracing this code so that they can live that authentic life?
I may sound like a broken record, but step one is coming into your truth. And you don't even have to do it all at once. What you should do is, out of the 4 pillars, which of the 4 is your domino? What do I mean by that? Which one of those 4 pillars, if you tip that first pillar, which one of that first pillar is going to tip all the other ones? Which one is the one that needs to be worked on the most, that's going to have the most effect, that's going to trickle down to the other 3? Start there. Pick one of the pillars that you think you have the most difficulty with. Let's say it's body. Let's say you're overweight. Let's say that's your pillar. Start simply there. Simply have a conversation with yourself. What is my truth? What is my reality? Am I happy with this truth? Do I accept this truth? Do I tolerate this truth? Is this the truth that I want for myself in my life? If that's not the case, if you're not in alignment with any of the answers of those questions, it is time for you to realize and come into your raw feelings about this truth. It's that simple. Once that happens, you unlock something within you. You open up a Pandora's box within you that wants to grow. Because once the truth comes to light, you can't hide it anymore. You can't cover it. You can't darken the light. So once the truth is shining in your light, it is up to you to see it for what it is and accept it and step into it and allow yourself to be reborn. Allow yourself to come into a new frequency, a new understanding of what your reality is and where you are and where you want to go. It's that simple. And you can sit there for a while. It's a big jump going from sleeping to being awake. It's a massive transformation. Just this process of you waking up and you coming into your truth and you realizing what your truth is going to radically change your life. You are going to want to make more progress. You are going to want to advance within the other pillars. It's going to be a natural snowball.
Mm-hmm. And it's self-motivating, because if you bite off too much and you don't make that first metric, then you get discouraged and probably don't even continue. But when you make that first step and achieve it, and that second step and achieve it, you are motivating yourself. So what happens to someone emotionally when this transformation starts while they begin their journey to where they want to head?
Well, like most things, when you first start, it's hard. Like most things, when you start, it's hard. And you are going to feel some emotional pain. Why? Because you're shedding your old ways. You are breaking old patterns. You are breaking old habits. You are shedding that old skin. I heard a great analogy where someone told me that a snake will shed its skin. But how does it shed its skin? It is ripping, it is tearing, it is clawing it away. It is literally like looking for whatever edge it can rub its body on to remove that skin from its body. That's the process. That's the rebirth process.
Friction.
The same thing happens 100%. The same thing happens to us as humans. For us to grow, it is a painful process. But once you're over that hump, you feel incredible, and you're able to look back and you're able to see, wow, how could I not see this before? Why was I stuck marinating in that pit, in that lower vibrational frequency? So once you are able to really understand what's happening, you're going to flip real quick.
Huge. Well, Leo, I think this has just been so eye-opening to see your methodology laid out here in this book. I'm so excited for readers to start reading it, but more importantly, start implementing it. So if someone is interested in learning more and also picking up a copy of the book and reaching out and connecting with you, what's the best way that they can do that?
You can go to my website at leoclimaco.com or alignandunleash.com. You can also find me on Instagram at Leo Climaco. Both of these links will be on my bio within my Instagram profile. And let's get to work.
Leo, thank you so much for coming back on. It's been a real pleasure talking with you.
Thank you so much, Mike. I really, really appreciate you providing this platform for me. I'm very grateful.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneursradio.com.